would like to think I'm someone who is quite knowledgeable on theatre, on musicals, on things of that ilk. I see a lot of things. I think I know a thing or two about theatre and the industry, but I'm never really asked the questions. Do you know where they always go? Google. They always like type in their questions about these shows into Google, not even coming to the main source of information, which is clearly me. So today I'm reclaiming these questions. I'm taking it back. I'm Google now. Have you seen the Google autofill interviews where you'll start to type a question into Google and it will like autofill the rest with some very common responses, the internet's biggest questions? Basically, we're doing that. I have searched up about different musicals, about different theatre related things, and I am going to answer Google's automated responses so that you can hear from the real expert and not the fake expert, which is Google. You know nothing, you've never seen a play in your life. You think Google's buying theatre tickets? No. I'm there. I'm in the trenches. I'm the one who you should be listening to. But if you haven't seen my face before, hi, I'm Ellie. I talk about theatre. I am the most chaotic theatre person on the internet. I do reviews, I do discussions, I do versus brackets, game shows, whatever this is, and so much more. And if any of that sounds interesting to you, please consider hitting like and subscribe. It really helps me, it helps out the channel. But let's play the Google autofill interview. Okay, so we've got like a mix here. There's some that are specifically about certain musicals, there's some that are about theatre in general, there's some that kind of devolve into their own little mini games, and I will show and prove my knowledge of why I am better than Google. But we are going to start with a very simple question. Why are musicals? Why are musicals indeed? I'm glad you asked. Now you'll see certain ones of these are like doubly coloured. If they're blue, we're going to answer them individually. If they are a different colour, they are linked because they're similar questions. Sometimes people will like type things into Google just a slightly different way, phrase it in a slightly different way, and I'm not answering the same question twice. We're going to do it together, okay? So first up, we have the very simple question: why are musicals so... I I I see we're asking the philosophical stuff straight off the bat. Okay. Why are musicals so gay? I mean, they're kind of for us, aren't they? I think there's definitely something to speak about iconography. I mean, a lot of divas and a lot of people that gay people look up to and celebrate have done a lot of musical theatre. Who is the original gay icon? Where does the term friend of Dorothy come from? You guessed it, that's Miss Judy Garland. She is a diva, she is an icon, she is a legend, and the gays were obsessed with her. I think a lot of the time musical theatre is kind of written by queer people, so within plots and within these stories, I think there's a lot that queer people kind of latch onto and relate to very naturally. So why are musicals so gay? Because they're fabulous. They're camp, they're silly, they're goofy, there's a lot to relate to in there. I think especially within like an era where queer people had to hide themselves a lot more, I feel like it was quite a comforting place. Nowadays we're seeing musicals just actually become more gay, like plot lines that revolve around queer identities, musicals like Fun Home, seeing queer characters lead shows instead of being comic relief or sidelined. Honestly, I think the real question is, why aren't musicals even gayer? What? I don't think they're gay enough. Okay, next up we have two that are kind of related to each other. Why are musicals so cringe? For an art form that is so non-naturalistic, I think it's obvious that there are going to be some people who just don't understand it, who don't get it. Why are they breaking into song? Why are they doing this? It's silly, it's crass, and I think very much so, I think a lot of people who don't really look into musicals beyond like the main ones they know don't understand that musical theatre as a genre includes so many different like subgenres. There's romantic musicals, there's comedy musicals, there's the silly kind of goofy style of musicals, but then there's also something like Sweeney Todd, which is a lot darker. I think you can look at two different musicals and have a completely different vibe from them. Something massively commercial and very sanitized, like, I don't know, Devil Wears Prada, is completely different to something like Benjamin Button, a musical that has already been made and crafted from the heart and is all about a personal perspective and really relates to the writer's background and goes into some really dark and sad places. Both of these things are great in their own rights. You can go and see these two different musicals for completely different things and completely different styles of stories. But, I mean, I can't say there aren't some cringy musicals. As much as I do enjoy it, have you seen Be More Chill? That's So I think at the end of the day, there's gonna be some people who don't understand the art form, don't understand it, and can't really get into it. It's an art form that requires a certain suspense of disbelief, and if you can't really bring that to it, then you're not really gonna enjoy it. Why are musicals called slime tutorials? Okay. Oh, we're gonna get into deep dive history here. Okay. So on YouTube, a lot of people will post recordings of musicals. Now, if you know anything, you know that these, often called bootlegs, are illegal. You're not meant to go into a theatre and film the show. There's many opinions on filming bootlegs. Some people think it's okay, some people think it's not, some people think it's always distracting, some people are very in between. I think there are pros and cons to bootlegs. There's a lot of shows that I've only ever seen and are only now available to watch and enjoy now through bootlegs. Bootlegs have also built up shows as well. A musical like Be More Chill or a musical like Heathers actually built a lot of popularity over the years and built up fan followings because of their bootlegs. I don't think those shows would have had any further life. They would have never made it to the West End in Heather's case and to Broadway in Be More Chill's case if they didn't have those initial bootlegs and they didn't have the cast recordings to go with them. Those shows probably would have fallen into obscurity and no one would have really known what they were. But because of that, they've been able to have that future life. But on the other hand, they can be distracting, not only to other audience members, but also to the people on stage. Your phone camera is going to reflect on that stage light. And also, there's certain performances in certain shows where, you know, people are doing things on stage that they don't necessarily want to be filmed. They may be stripping down. I mean, we can take Heathers, for instance, as well here, which is very topical because this is a whole situation that's happened very recently where Heathers has come out and asked their fans not to film bootlegs. But a lot of the cast members in that show strip down. There's simulated scenes of an adult variety to skirt around the topic there. So like in that type of situation, I can really understand why an actor wouldn't really want that to be on the internet forever. There's pros and there's cons in terms of bootlegs, but the reason that they are called slime tutorials here, I've gone way off track here. The reason they're called slime tutorials is obviously because they are illegal, and if you place them onto a site like YouTube, it's very likely that the copyright holders, within their own right, will ask YouTube to take them down. If you name your video recording of Six the Musical, here is the exact date and seat number where I was sat, and here's all the filming and all the information, then they're obviously going to go, oh, yep, that video, take it down right now. Let's get rid of it right now. We can tell from the title and the thumbnail that that is a video that we do not want on the internet. That's our property, that's our copyrights. Get rid of it right now. But if you called it Royal Family Drama Slime Tutorial, then you wouldn't have that taken down. This kind of happened around the same time that YouTube was having a real influx of like tutorial videos around making slime. And so to hide the fact that these were recordings of entire musicals and to try to get around YouTube's copyright system, a lot of these were titled and thumbnailed in a way to kind of disguise the fact that they were full musicals, with references within the titles to kind of give you a clue in a little bit on what the actual content was. So people in the know and people who may know a little bit about the musical can still find it. Obviously, it's not foolproof. Obviously, these slime tutorials get taken down very often, but I mean, it's better than the alternative. Next two are together. Why are musicals popular? I think musical theatre has a very commercial vibe to it. I think it's very telling that most of the most successful shows of all time are musicals. If you look over like the top 10 longest running West End shows, there's only like a handful in there that are plays. It's very much more dominated by your Les Mis, your Phantom, your Lion King, your Matilda. Or if you look over to Broadway, your Chicago's, your Wickeds, your Aladdins. Most of these have also played West End. There's a real crossover. I think musical theatre is a very flexible genre. As I said, a musical like Sweeney Todd is completely different to a musical like Lion King. You can go very specifically for a different vibe there, and I think that is something that makes it massively appealing. I think it's very easy to market as well. And I think a lot of people look to musical theatre for a little bit of escapism. And I think out of a lot of different genres, it's a great genre for that. I think those are certain reasons why I think musical theatre is so popular, and some of the reasons why I really enjoy it. And also, they're just pretty good. They're great pieces of art. Why are musicals so expensive? Capitalism. That's the reason for the season. Theatre is a business, and there's a lot of expenses that come along with that. It's very expensive to run a show. If you look at these sets for even a long-running musical like Wicked, those sets need to be refurbished every now and then. You need to make sure they're working. If there's automation, you need to be paying people to run the automation. If you've got cast, then you've got all the cast in the building to pay. You've also got marketing teams and PR teams to pay along as well, to make sure that you've still got posters up everywhere so people still know that the show is going on, so that you can get butts into the seats. You've got lighting teams, you've got designers, you've got the original creative team who will need to be paid and given regular money from the production as continuing to run and run and run. These are big scale productions a lot of the time. And I mean, even the smaller productions, even smaller shows have a lot of costs that just add up and up and up. And at the end of the day, that money's got to be generated somewhere, and that's why a lot of theatre is so expensive. That's not to say there's no way around it. There's great access schemes, there's great ways to get cheaper tickets. A lot of these systems are better if you live nearer to London or nearer to New York. So you can take advantage of lotteries, rush tickets, going and doing day seats, checking out sites and checking out common deals. A lot of different websites will run constant deals on certain shows where you can grab an absolute bargain. You just got to know where to look. You know where to look to get good deals on seats. But the real answer here, why is theatre so expensive? Capitalism. People gotta be paid somehow. Why are musicals important? I'm glad you asked. I think, and I mean, we'll answer this in more detail on the next slide, I think, because there's it's more general than that. I think musical theatre most often isn't the most important genre, and I'm saying this as someone who absolutely adores musical theatre, like, to the sky and beyond. I'm not gonna sit here and try and argue that the most important piece of art ever made is Seussical the Musical, you know? But I think musical theatre is a great method for escapism. I think musical theatre is a great drive for people. I think it's something that has given me a lot of comfort over the years. I think I've seen some amazing stories that are so perfectly told through the art of musical theatre. I think that's why musicals specifically are important to me. There's another thing I want to say, but I know that there's a similar thing coming up soon, so I'm going to save that. Put a pin in that. Why are musicals so good? See all the reasons I just said. I'm not repeating them. That's kind of similar reasons, yes. And why are musicals so long? Look, you've paid a lot of money for your seat. You've paid out. Do you not want your money's worth? Do you not want to see 20 really good songs in a 2-hour 30 book? Like, come on. It's called value. I mean, there are musicals that aren't very long. If you don't want to sit in a theatre for ages, think of something like Six. That's only 70 minutes. What a breeze. You could go see Fringe Theatre as well, where literally they have so many shows booked into the schedule that you can't go over a certain time limit. Just go up to the Fringe, you'll never see a show that's longer than 90 minutes. It will be the best time of your life if you think musicals are too long. I was going to say that musicals are as long as they need to be, but I have definitely seen a musical or two, even musicals recently, that are definitely longer than they need to be, but you know, it's up to the creatives. All right, that's number one done. Let's move on to number two. We have specific musicals, and we're starting with Hamilton. Is Hamilton a true story? Yes, it's about the US man who was not president, but he was one of the founding fathers. He signed that thing, and he went and he kind of annoyed people because he wanted to run the money thing, and then he cheated on his wife. It was so sad. But then his son died. That was even sadder. And then he did things. That's my plot summary of Hamilton. And now, if any of the other shows ask for a plot description, I now need to do it in that exact same style. Oh no, what Pandora's box have I opened? Is Hamilton on Disney Plus? Is Hamilton on Netflix? Hamilton is not on Netflix. Hamilton is on Disney Plus. You can see the original Broadway cast, except for one original Broadway cast member who is not in it. So it's almost the original Broadway cast. Is Hamilton leaving Ferrari? So I think this is about Lewis Hamilton and not Alexander Hamilton. Sure, sure. I think he is. Yeah, I think he's leaving Ferrari. Yeah, sure. Is Hamilton good? I'd say so. I very much enjoy it. I think when we look at it from a book perspective, I think it is one of the most tightly written musicals of the past 20 years. Lyrically, it's so genius. Musically, it's great. Stylistically, it was so impactful for its time. Even if some of the staging, I'm not the biggest fan of, and I think it's a style that has kind of gone out of style, but I still think Hamilton stands up. I still think Hamilton is fantastic. It's a fantastic musical. Is Hamilton Shakespeare? You are thinking of Hamlet. That is Hamlet. That's not the musical. This is about Alexander Hamilton. It's the man who was the founding father. You are thinking of Hamlet. That is the Shakespeare guy who I actually don't know the plot of Hamlet. He has a uncle who is mean, and he's like the prince, and it's the plot of Lion King, right? So uncle mean kills father. He runs away, he comes back, he reclaims the throne. I think that's the plot of Hamlet. How have I not seen a production of Hamlet? I promise you, I know Shakespeare. I love a bit of Macbeth. I love a cheeky. I love a Shakespeare comedy. Twelfth Night, that's my jam. How have I never seen a production of Hamlet? Wow. Is Hamilton a musical? I'm sorry to say, yes. Is Hamilton a good watch brand? Hamilton, please get on this and add a watch to your merch store so I can say yes. Is Hamilton still on Broadway? Yes, and it's celebrating 10 years this year. Unless you're watching this after 2025, and then it's celebrating more than 10 years. And finally, is Hamilton gay? Oh, you're so obsessed with us. Okay, this is actually a bigger question than on first glance, because, Hamilton was married, but he was married at a time when homosexuality was less appreciated. There are definitely letters that you can read between Hamilton and John Laurens, and, there are some slight homoerotic undertones to them, I will say. I think there are definitely people on Tumblr who would immediately tell you yes. I think if we learn anything from 2016 Tumblr, it is that every character in Hamilton is gay, and there is no arguing about it. So is Hamilton gay? Maybe. Maybe. I think there are definitely historical records where that would be a fair assumption. Now, is the musical gay? No, they don't really mention it. There's one line where you can kind of go, because Hamilton says, I think your pants look hot. Laurens, I like you a lot. And you're like, but probably not. It's not really. All right. Are musicals plays? Kinda. I mean, plays is more commonly associated with non-musicals, like dramas and comedies that don't feature songs. There are plays with music. Something like Stereophonic kind of blurs the line a bit between play and musical. There are musicals that have a less musical theatre style, like something like Fun Home. Technically no, but also kind of maybe yes. Are musicals diegetic? Now, diegetic refers to diegetic sound. When you hear a song in a film, for instance, if it is background music, that sound is non-diegetic because the characters within the universe are not hearing that sound. Diegetic sound would be anything that is playing within the universe. So if a character walks up to their phone and it starts to ring, that would be a diegetic sound. If they start playing music off that phone and then it leads into a fight sequence or something, then that would be diegetic sound. A great example of this would be a film like Shaun of the Dead, where when they're in the Winchester, there's this whole sequence where a Queen song plays off a jukebox and it goes into a big fight sequence. That would be diegetic sound because the noise and the music that we're hearing on screen, the characters in universe can hear it. Musical theatre blurs the lines a little bit. Obviously, it would depend on show to show, but musicals very often feature musical asides. Think of like a freeze frame moment. A great example would be Legally Blonde, the start of So Much Better, where time freezes and Elle Woods is just kind of to herself singing. But then there's definitely certain moments, even within that same song, where the other characters within universe can definitely hear what Elle Woods is saying and singing. It's a very weird situation because of the natural sense of disbelief. It's hard to assign something that has such a real world value as diegetic and non-diegetic sound to something that is so much more expansive like musical theatre. I think it's a very interesting argument to make because there's definitely arguments you could make because there's definitely characters within these universes that can indeed also hear what they're saying and singing. Sometimes other characters join into a song. So I guess if we're looking at it within that universe, sure, it could be seen as diegetic sound. But it's this weird kind of middle ground. Are musicals gay? I've already answered this one. Yes, they are. Hell yeah. Are musicals in Madrid in English? It's actually fairly common if you go to places like France or Germany that you can go and see musicals in English. There's a lot of great theatres that will do English spoken musicals. The Lido in Paris does a lot of these. The English Theatre in Frankfurt does some English shows, which is kind of in the name. I went to a small town in Germany and I did a musical when I was like in a youth theatre just with my youth group, and we went to Germany and performed it in English. It's a nice kind of cultural exchange. It does happen. Madrid, I don't know specifically, but it's very, very, very common. And it's a nice thing that we're starting to see this happen more and more with commercial shows over here as well. Because I think it's only really been massively like opera that you go and see it in the original language, but we've had more shows recently start to try different things and perform the shows in different languages. Six is doing an exchange with the Japanese cast and they're going to perform the show in Japanese. Also speaking about Japanese, Spirited Away came over here, and instead of translating that play, they decided to bring over the Japanese cast and perform it in Japanese. So we're starting to see this happen more and more in this country. I'd honestly like to see it even more. Are musicals in italics? I assume this is a grammar thing. When you're typing out the name of a musical, yes, you would normally put it in italics. That would be correct grammatically. Moving on. Are musicals a genre? Musicals, yes, kind of. I think it goes a little bit wider in a sense that you can have a musical comedy and a musical romance and a musical drama. Like, you can have kind of multiple genres combined with musical theatre, so it kind of goes a little bit beyond that. But I mean, you can have a romantic horror film. You can have a romantic comedy. You can have a thriller and a drama. You can naturally blend different genres together. So yeah, I would say that musical is a genre. And are musicals movies? They can be. La La Land, Greatest Showman, adaptations like Wicked, like 13. I don't know why that's the first thing that came to my mind. Like Chicago, Cats. I didn't say they had to be good movies, but if you're watching a musical in a theatre, that would not be a movie. I think that's quite obvious. Alright, we have our first minigame one. This is musicals that. All of these are musicals that start with a letter, and I'm going to try and tell you as many musicals as I can think of without looking at anything that start with these letters. Musicals that start with I, Into the Woods. I'm already failing. The only other one I can think of like right now is In the Heights. There's definitely more. Way to start with the hardest one. Musicals that start with Q. God damn it! I should have gone from the bottom. These probably get easier as it goes down. Too late now. Okay, Q. Avenue Q would not count because that starts with A, but that's definitely a Q. Quarter. Is there a quarter life crisis musical? Probably not. That I would. What's it called? Quadro. I don't think it's a musical. Quadrophilia. That sound no. It's not that. Quadro. What is that show? What is that show? Quadrophenia. It's a ballet. That doesn't count. I can see why people were googling this one. Music start with a K. Kinky Boots. There we go. This is getting better. This is getting better. Okay, Kinky Boots. That's a great one. Other musicals that start with K. I can do this. I'm really bad at this. Oh god. I should have not introduced this minigame. I'm really bad at it. Oh no. King and I, if you don't count the, but King and I guess, could count as well. I mean, that's probably like the most obvious one that starts with K. I should have said a specific rule of like how many I need to say with them. Music will start with U. Urinetown. That's one. Urinetown. I don't think there's many others, but Urinetown. There you go. I've given you one. That's all you deserve. Music will start with N next to normal. There's so many. Okay. Serious now. Newsies is one. There's others. Is it Natasha P and the Great Comet of 1812? Oh my god, of course. What else? I could probably give you like one more. I've done 3. That's all I need. Anyway, musicals that start with R. Rebecca, that's a musical. Rebecca is a musical. It's a weird musical. The stage lights on fire. Unless you saw the London version, and then they didn't do that. Real Women Have Curves. I'm going to throw you a little ball there. That's a musical that more people should actually appreciate. I'm really sad that closed early on Broadway. And one more. I can give you one more. A musical that starts with R. Ride. Does everyone remember Ride? That was a great show. Oh, I miss Ride. And Ragtime. I'm thinking of all of them right now. Oh god. Okay. There you go. That's 4 musicals that start with V. There's not really many. Victor Victoria. That's a rare one. I have not seen that one. I'm scared about it because I don't know if it's going to be really dated. Music that start with J. Jersey Boys is probably like the most popular one. Just for One Day, if you want to go for something in the West End right now, the Live Aid musical. Music that start with Y. Young Frankenstein is always the one that comes to mind. See, I did say it was going to get easier as we go down. And finally, music that start with G. Groundhog Day. There we go. That was a fun minigame. Let's move on to why is theatre? Why is theatre so expensive? We've answered it. There's a lot of things to pay for. Why is theatre important? Now, I said we put a pin in this. We're coming back to it right now. Theatre in general is so important, especially to me, because I think art is so important. I think all we need to do is look over to the States right now. What was like one of the first things Trump censored? He took control and made himself president of the Kennedy Center. He started to censor art. He's starting to sue certain companies who are running TV shows. He's moaning at any bad press. Look at the South Park episode that's just aired and the satire of Trump that's gone into that and how upset a figure like that is. It's a tool for questioning things. Theatre is a tool for building empathy. And I think there are a lot of people, a lot of political figures who like to take certain groups of people and scapegoat them so that they can stay in power. But theatre allows you to see different perspectives, to understand the world beyond just your own perspective. It's why it's so good to engage with theatre, not just in the West End, not just the big commercial shows, but also smaller theatres. Your local theatre. Art from creators who look like you and art from creators who don't. to engage yourself with so many different cultures and ideas so you can have a wider understanding of how the world works. That's why theatre is so important. For education specifically, I think theatre is such a great tool for helping people improve their confidence. I'm someone who's worked a lot with young people within theatre, and you just, from the years and years of people working with them, when they first step into the room, they go from being really shy, unable to say a word, to really finding their tribe and their people and to understanding more about themselves. I think especially when it comes to putting on a show, it's about that community feeling. It's about creating something. It gives a lot of students a different place to put their energy, to give them a break and a bit of breathing time beyond just the regular schoolwork. A similar reason of why sports are so great for certain students. That's a lot of the other reasons that I haven't already mentioned why theatre is so important. Why is theatre food so expensive? Now, this is about theatre. It's in cinemas, what they call them in America. I was hoping this would be more British inspired because I'm searching these up from England. But I mean, have you ever tried to buy sweets in a theatre? It is expensive. Next up, why is theatre so cold? What theatres are you going to, and where can I find them? Because I am boiling. Have you ever sat in the Southwark Playhouse? Oh boy, I melt every time. Basically, that's not my lived experience, and please show me where these theatres are that are so cold so I can go to them, please. And finally, why is theatre better than film? I wouldn't necessarily say that theatre is better than film. I think these are two different genres that have certain stories that work for them. There's some shows that could make a move to film. There's some films that could make the move to stage, but I don't think naturally they fit together. I don't think they're one or the other. I think you can have both and appreciate both. But with all things, art is subjective. So if you think theatre is better than film, then you are factually correct. Yes, please keep watching my videos. We got another specific musical here, Heathers. Is Heathers the musical good? I don't think it's a perfect show, but I think it's a very enjoyable show. I think it's great for younger, like teen viewers as well. Yeah, I could say it's pretty decent. Is Heathers the musical based on the movie? Yes, it is. It differs in many ways. I think it's a lot campier. The film is kind of a bit more dry, and while trying to move itself to stage, I think it lost some of that, but I think that was just part and parcel with changing the genre. But yes, it follows the general gist of that film. Is Heathers the musical appropriate? Not really. Please don't take your children to it. I think if you have, like, 13-year-olds and you think they're mature enough and you're okay with explaining a couple of things, then sure, it's probably okay, but please don't bring like an 8-year-old to Heathers. It's not, no, please don't. Is Heathers the musical on Disney Plus? No. Is Heathers the musical on Netflix? No. Is Heathers the musical on Prime? In the UK, yes it is actually. I think in America it's on Roku, but yeah, you can watch the entire pro shot of Heathers. Is Heathers Broadway? No, but Heathers is off-Broadway right now in New York, back in New World Stages where it initially opened, so you can go Heathers. You can go Heathers off-Broadway. And is Heathers the musical based on a true story? God, I hope not. God, I really hope not. God, I insanely hope not. Please, God, no, I hope not. No, it's based on the film, which in turn, I don't think itself is based on a true story, and I would be scared if it was. Finally, we're going to end with two little mini-gamey ones. We have musicals with and musicals without, and I'm going to try and suggest you shows that fit into these categories. First, we have musicals with kids and children, which is basically the same. Unless you're asking about goats, and I mean the answer is Once on This Island. Actually, the Broadway version of Once on This Island had a real goat. But if you're asking about children, Annie, School of Rock, Sound of Music, Mary Poppins, Matilda, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, The Witches, a lot of Roald Dahl books apparently, yeah. There's many. There's even some shows that like have like one or two child actors in them. Think of a show like Frozen, which cast like the younger performers. Think of a show like Tina that cast the younger version of the leads. But there you go. There's so many. There's loads. There you go. Musicals with female leads. Death Becomes Her is a very recent example. Very topical is Wicked has female leads. Chicago has two very strong female leads. 9 to 5 is a great show. Great show for like community theatres to do as well. That has a lot of really strong female roles. Because you have like the 3 main ones. You have the comedy role in Roz, the secretary. Like there's loads of great female roles in that show. Obviously, you have shows that are completely made up of female roles, like Six, like the upcoming Coven musical as well. It's got an all-female cast. Suffs had an all-female cast, but they are opening that up to being multi-gender, because the concept of that on Broadway with casting was that the men were played by women, but it seems like they're kind of more open to men playing the male roles in that show in amateur and licensed productions. Musicals with big casts. Les Mis is a very big cast. Wicked is a very big cast. If you're speaking about like named roles, I think A Chorus Line is one that has a lot of roles. Come From Away has a lot of named roles. Something like Legally Blonde has a lot of like mini side characters that you can split up a lot of the time as well. That's a great one for community theatres to do. And actually that is a musical that I did and I took over to Germany as well. There you go. All links back together. Musicals with small casts. You can have two-handers like The Last 5 Years. You can have what other one? Oh, Ordinary Days, 4 people. Next to Normal technically has quite a small cast with only 7 people. I know I've done it for big casts as well technically, but I was speaking more about certain characters. But Come From Away has 12 people and it's not got an ensemble alongside that. Ride, only 2 people. I'm trying to think of musicals with 1 person in the cast. My Sons Are Queer has 1 person in the cast. Hedwig and the Angry Inch, 2 people in that cast as well. Musicals with pro shots. Right now, if you go across different sites, on Apple TV, you can watch Come From Away. You can also see Smigadoon, which is not a pro shot, but a great musical TV show that more people should have seen. I'm so sad that they never made season 3. You have Frozen on Disney Plus alongside Hamilton. Newsies as well. Six is a pro shot. Next to Normal has a pro shot that's coming into cinemas very soon. Suffs has a pro shot. Merrily We Roll Along has a pro shot that's coming out soon. Falsettos is a great pro shot. That's one of my favourite pro shots. The 2016 Broadway production. That's a solid pro shot. Many a musical has a pro shot. Some are harder now to find than others, but a lot of musicals do have pro shots. A lot of musicals also have like archive footage. Sometimes there's like museums in London that will show archive footage of certain musical productions. I think they did Spring Awakening, where they showed the Almeida production and like a archival footage version of that. So sometimes they don't have like an official release pro shot, but they do have some kind of recording. Musicals with dogs. 101 Dalmatians. This didn't say good musicals with dogs, but that's a musical with many dogs. Also, Annie, Legally Blonde as well, both feature dogs. I've got a cat shirt, which would make you think I'm more of a cat person, but I am much more of a dog person. So I appreciate this being Googled as many times as it has been. Musicals with X in the title. Xanadu is one that starts with the letter X. I think it's one of the only musicals that starts with the letter X. But admittedly, there's not very many. And finally, musicals with one-word titles. Ride, Oklahoma. Wicked, Matilda. Names are normally a good place to start. Annie. Hamilton. Rent, obviously. There you go. Oh, I could have used Rent for our musicals. Babies. That's another great musical that not many people know massively. Bring Babies back. I miss that musical. Six. Very popular musical. The answer is many. There are many. And finally, let's end out with musicals without dance. I mean, you're hard pressed to find a musical that doesn't have like any form of dance. Even like musicals like Sweeney Todd, which may not have like the most solid dance, would have some kind of choreography. I think you're more so looking to like two-handers, like something like Last 5 Years can be staged without loads and loads of dance. Ride can be staged without loads and loads of dance. Hedwig and the Angry Inch needs like staging, but it could be done without dance. But I mean, a lot of different productions will have different demands. I mean, if you really wanted to, you could take a massively dancing musical and not have dance in it. If you really wanted, I think you'd be stripping it back quite a bit, but not everyone may like it. But I mean, you can have any musical and decide to stage it without dance. Musicals without dialogue. Now that's quite difficult. But I assume that you mean sung-through musicals. Because it's weird. If you were saying sung-through musicals, that can be a lot wider. Because it's your Hamiltons, your Les Mis, but even, like, within something like Les Mis, there is still, like, technically dialogue. There's still, like, an exchange between characters. Even if you look at a musical like Hamilton, that has a spoken scene, the scene where John Lawrence passes away. So technically that would be a musical that has a scene of dialogue, so it depends how strict you're being. But if you're saying sung-through musicals, your Hadestowns, your Les Mis, your Hamiltons, Miss Saigon, like, there's a lot of different examples. Musicals about romance. It's weird, what are you classing? Because, like, are side characters being in love romance? Because there's technically no romance in Beetlejuice, but I mean, Barbara and Adam are a kind of romantic couple, so, I mean, that would get rid of that one. Billy Elliot has kind of a lack of romance in it. There's, like, some discussions about relationships, but there's, like, there's no, like, solid romance in there. I think that's a great example. Depending on how you see the relationship between Jesus and Mary Magdalene, and maybe Jesus Christ Superstar. Joseph doesn't. Joseph doesn't really have romance in it, I don't think. You really do start to realize how romance is, like, a massive part of, like, a lot of musicals. Wow. Because even, like, side characters, like, there's normally, like, one kind of romantic relationship in there. That's actually a much harder one than you'd expect. Musicals about ensemble. Next to normal. Small, like, two-hander, three-hander musicals, like Ordinary Days, Hedwig, you know, that type of musical as well. Dear Evan Hansen has been done with both. The recent UK tour added an ensemble, but it has been done without one as well. But you're also looking to, like, your smaller casts, yeah. Musical about copyright is an interesting one, because a lot of, like, the most recognizable musicals are still within copyright. Copyright ends after about 95 years, I think it is. So you just look back about 100 years ago. You're going to find it's a lot of, like, Gilbert and Sullivan, like, a lot of kind of more operatic style of musicals. Like, I don't think Pirates is under copyright. Obviously different versions of it would be, but yeah, you're a little bit more hard pressed to find copyrightless musicals within the public domain than you can do with, like, plays. Musicals without movies. Look at anything massively recent. If you're speaking about without adaptations, so musicals that have not been adapted from movies, then you could say something like Come From Away was adapted from a true story. You could look at books and things like The Great Gatsby, which is technically not based on the movie, but is based on the book. Yeah, there's a handful. Musicals without music or singing. You are speaking about a play. Go and see a play. Musicals without intermission. Ah, interesting. Musicals without an interval. Come From Away doesn't have one. Hedwig and the Angry Inch doesn't have one. Rocky Horror used to not have one, but is more traditionally now staged with an interval. And of course, something like Six doesn't have one. There you go, some examples. And finally, musicals without happy endings. Hadestown has a really sad ending. Sweeney Todd has a really, like, mellow ending. Cabaret, I think Cabaret is, like, one of the bleakest endings of a musical that you can go to, but it's kind of very important that that ending is bleak, so you get the actual message of that show. But there you go. And there you are. I have answered all of Google's questions. I am now officially better than Google. You're welcome. That was a lot of fun. Obviously, you can kind of tell that this video was inspired by the Google autofill interviews that Wired do. But let me know if there's any other questions that I need to ask Google, that I need to answer. I will be happy to share my knowledge if you have more questions in the comments. And I hope you enjoyed this very silly video idea. If you enjoyed this video, please consider hitting like and subscribe. It really helps me out at the channel. Here's some links to some other videos on screen right now, and a link to my Instagram if you'd like to drop me a follow over there. I also have other social links and a merch store in the description down below. But that's it for me today, and I hope to see you next time. Bye!